The Ammonites lived across the Jordan River, a land rich in history and culture. They were neighbors to the Israelites, sharing a long and complex history. Their king, Nahash, had recently passed away, leaving a legacy behind. His son, Hanun, ascended to the throne, stepping into his father's shoes with the weight of leadership on his shoulders. David, the king of Israel, remembered the kindness Nahash had shown him during difficult times. He wanted to extend a hand of friendship to the new king, Hanun. David's memories of Nahash's goodwill were vivid, and he felt a deep sense of gratitude. He decided to act on these feelings. David sent his messengers to Hanun, hoping to convey his condolences and support. The journey was long, but the message was heartfelt. The messengers arrived in the Ammonite city, where mourning for Nahash was still palpable. They were there to offer comfort and solidarity. David had instructed them carefully, saying, "Go to Hanun and tell him that I am deeply sorry for his loss. Let him know that I wish him strength and wisdom as he takes on his new role." The messengers delivered David's words with sincerity, hoping to build a bridge of trust and friendship between the two nations. David's hope was that this act of kindness would not only honor Nahash's memory, but also strengthen the bond between Israel and Ammon. However, Hanun and his advisors were suspicious. They twisted David's gesture into something sinister, believing it to be a ploy. Blinded by pride and distrust, the Ammonites set in motion a chain of events that would lead to a terrible war, shattering the peace David had hoped to build. David's messengers arrived at Hanun's palace. They delivered the message of sympathy and support. But Hanun's advisors whispered poisonous words in his ear. They said, "David's messengers are spies. They are here to trick us." Hanun, blinded by their words, decided to humiliate David's men. He ordered his soldiers to shave off half their beards. He also cut off their robes at the buttocks. This was a terrible insult in their culture. The messengers were ashamed and heartbroken. They hurried back to David and told him everything. David was furious. He had shown kindness, and it was met with cruelty. He knew he had to act to protect his honor and the honor of his kingdom. David saw the shaved beards and torn robes of his messengers. Fury boiled inside him. He felt the sting of betrayal. Hanun's actions were a slap in the face, not just to him but to all of Israel. David said to his messengers, "Stay in Jericho until your beards grow back, then you may return." He knew that war was inevitable. He gathered his army and prepared for battle. The drums of war thundered across Israel, calling brave men to fight for their king and their country. The Ammonites knew they had made a grave mistake. Fear gripped their hearts as they realized the might of the army they had provoked. But it was too late for apologies. The die was cast, and the battle lines were drawn. David entrusted his army to his brave nephew, Joab. Joab was a skilled and experienced general. He looked at the vast Ammonite army and devised a clever strategy. He divided the Israelite army into two groups. He gave command of one group to his brother Abishai. Joab said to Abishai, "You take your men and face the Arameans. I will take my men and face the Ammonites." The Arameans were allies of the Ammonites, and their combined forces were a formidable threat. Joab's plan was simple but effective: divide and conquer. He knew that if they could defeat the Ammonites and Arameans separately, they would secure a swift and decisive victory. The fate of two nations rested on the success of their plan. The battle began with a roar. Joab and his forces charged into the Ammonite ranks. The Ammonites fought fiercely, but they were no match for the fury of the Israelites. Joab's men pushed forward with unwavering courage, their swords thirsty for victory. Meanwhile, Abishai and his men clashed with the Arameans. The battle raged, a whirlwind of steel, sweat, and blood, but the Israelites, fueled by righteous anger and a thirst for justice, fought like lions. The Ammonites, seeing that their allies were losing, panicked and fled. Joab and his men chased after them, cutting them down without mercy. The first battle ended in a resounding victory for the Israelites. The Arameans, defeated and humiliated, retreated north. They were determined to avenge their loss. They sent messengers throughout their land, calling for reinforcements. They knew that they needed a larger army to defeat the Israelites. The Aramean kings responded to the call. They gathered their armies and marched south to join forces with the remaining Ammonites. A vast and powerful army assembled, ready to crush the Israelites once and for all. News of this alliance reached David in Jerusalem. He knew that this was no longer a border dispute, it was a fight for survival. He couldn't send Joab alone to face such a massive force. He had to act, and he had to act decisively. David knew that the fate of his kingdom was at stake. He couldn't sit idly in his palace while his men fought for their lives. He decided to lead his army personally. He gathered his most experienced warriors and marched north to join Joab. The sight of their king, armed and ready for battle, filled the Israelite soldiers with courage. They knew that David was a man of God, a warrior who had faced down lions and giants. With him at their side, they felt invincible. David's arrival shifted the balance of power. His presence on the battlefield was a beacon of hope, a symbol of strength that rallied the Israelites and struck fear into the hearts of their enemies. The second battle began near a place called Helam. It was a fierce and bloody fight. The Arameans and Ammonites, confident in their superior numbers, attacked with unrelenting fury. But the Israelites stood firm, their shields locked together, their swords a wall of steel. David fought with the strength of 10 men. He inspired his soldiers with his courage and his faith. He knew that God was on their side, and that gave him the strength to fight on. The tide of the battle began to turn. The Arameans, seeing that they could not break the Israelite lines, panicked. Fear spread through their ranks like wildfire. They turned and fled, pursued relentlessly by the victorious Israelites. The Israelite army chased the fleeing Arameans and Ammonites. They slaughtered them without mercy, avenging the humiliation they had suffered. The ground ran red with the blood of the defeated. The victory was complete and decisive. David and his army returned home triumphant. They had faced a powerful enemy and emerged victorious. They had defended their land, their honor, and their God. The people of Israel rejoiced, their hearts filled with gratitude for their courageous king and his mighty army. The surrounding nations, witnessing the might of the Israelite army, were humbled. They realized that it was foolish to provoke David, the man after God's own heart. Peace settled over the land, a hard-won peace forged in the fires of battle. The story of David's victory over the Ammonites is more than just a tale of war. It is a profound narrative that transcends the mere clash of swords and shields. It is a story of bravery, faith, and forgiveness, woven into the very fabric of history. David showed great courage in the face of adversity. His bravery was not just in his physical strength, but in his unwavering spirit. He refused to be intimidated by the size and strength of his enemies. Despite being outnumbered and facing a formidable foe, David stood his ground. He knew that God was on his side, and that gave him the strength to fight. His faith was his armor, his belief in divine support his shield. David also showed faith in God's promise to protect his people. He trusted in the divine plan, even when the path seemed perilous. He didn't rely on his own strength or wisdom, but on God's power to deliver him from his enemies. His reliance on divine intervention was absolute. Even when facing overwhelming odds, David never lost sight of God's faithfulness. His faith was a beacon of hope in the darkest of times. Finally, David showed forgiveness. After the war, he could have taken revenge on Hanun and the Ammonites. The opportunity for retribution was within his grasp. But instead, he chose to show mercy. His decision to forgive rather than punish was a testament to his character. He allowed them to live in peace, hoping that one day they would learn from their mistakes. David's actions were a powerful lesson in the virtues of bravery, faith, and forgiveness, leaving a legacy that endures through the ages. David's victory over the Ammonites was a defining moment in his reign. It was a battle that tested not only his military prowess but also his faith and resolve. It solidified his reputation as a great warrior and a wise king. His leadership was marked by strategic brilliance and a deep sense of justice. But more importantly, it revealed the character of the man after God's own heart. David's humility and devotion were evident in his actions and decisions. David's story teaches us that true strength comes from God. His reliance on divine guidance was the cornerstone of his success. It reminds us that even in the darkest of times we can find hope and courage in our faith. David's unwavering belief in God's plan gave him the fortitude to overcome immense challenges. It challenges us to face our own giants with the same bravery and determination that David displayed on the battlefield. His story is a testament to the power of courage and faith. And finally, David's story inspires us to be people of both courage and compassion. His ability to show mercy and kindness even to his enemies set him apart as a true leader. to stand up for what is right, to uphold justice and integrity in all our actions, to defend the weak and the innocent, to be a shield for those who cannot protect themselves, and to always seek peace, even in the aftermath of victory. David's efforts to bring harmony and reconciliation were as significant as his triumphs in battle. This is the legacy of David, the shepherd boy who became a king, a journey that began in the pastures and led to the throne. The warrior who loved peace, who understood that true victory lies in the ability to create a lasting harmony. The man after God's own heart, whose life continues to inspire us to live with courage, compassion, and unwavering faith.